Hi, everybody. If you just want to put your computers on mute while we speak. Okay, so thank you for joining our Tom Ford Illustrating Fashion series. We got quite a few entries, so it's quite good. I'm just gonna share my screen. Let me just bring up the page where you can see. Okay. So as what we do, as we know, is as we bring it up. I'll ask you a few questions. You can give some feedback or you can give some thoughts on the work and see what you're thinking. And, we had some interesting pieces here. So, Tom Ford, obviously, new designer, new ideas, new things happening at Tom Ford. So, it'd be interesting to see how some of you interpreted Tom Ford. I was lucky enough to work for Tom Ford for about I'd say 6 to 7 years doing different designs. I'd worked with Tom Ford on James Bond. I'd also worked doing prints and VIP collections for Tom Ford. And I also was lucky enough to design for Tom Ford for Justin Timberlake's World Tour. So had some interesting experiences working for Tom Ford. And in our last book that we published, I was lucky to get David Bamber to give us some of his illustrations that he did while he was a designer and head of design studios at Tom Ford. So I don't know if anybody's seen the illustrations. I should have a book around here somewhere. Let me just go get a copy of the book so you can have a look. I don't know if any of you've seen uh, the David Bamber illustrations, but here was some of the illustrations that he did. And there's a really nice written piece about this was the one of the dresses that he designed for Tom Ford for I think Rihanna wore this. And then also we got some of the early work that David Bamber did for Gucci as well. And these are all illustrations and designs that he did. They're about A4 in size and they are on brown paper, cheap paper. And I remember him telling me that Tom Ford hated the brown paper, but he kept on using the brown paper to illustrate on because he loved the texture of it. And I think so. There's some really nice illustrations that he did, and I think I spent about 2 or 3 hours photographing the work. And here's some of the more designs and prints. Here's some more. So some really nice illustrations and drawings, like amazing illustrations. And we had David as one of the judges as well. Again, more. So it's nice to see some of these. These are designs. David's a designer. He worked at Gucci. He was at Gucci for 25 years. He worked for Tom Ford for 25 years. So he's quite an old character and he's retired now. Look, and some more beautiful ones. These are beautiful. And if I can try and get him to do a live talk, it would be really nice to get him to speak about his work. He's an amazing designer, illustrator, and I worked for many years alongside David, and I worked with David at the English National Ballet as well, designing for the Ballet Russe, and so we worked on lots of projects together. Um, some really interesting work. So let me just there's a few more people turning up late. So that was an interesting. I don't know if anyone's seen. This was the last book we did, and we've got our next book coming out now. We've got our fifth book. So and this book, David has put into a lot of the hotels that he visited while working for Tom Ford. So he donated different books to all these luxury hotels. So it's quite nice of getting your work out there. That was the goal of the book to really get you. to promote the book. So I think he put about 50 different books around top luxury hotels. So they're all in the foyer. I think I posted some of the photographs that he sent me. Now he's retired, he gets to travel quite a lot. So a really interesting character. And he now works, I think, from what he was telling me recently, he's working with the king, basically trying to bring new creativity to new characters that wouldn't have the opportunity because David wasn't from a very, I guess, affluent background. So he really worked his way to the top. So a really great character, David. Anyway, so let's start off. I don't know if Selma's on here, but just two things that had been pointed out is some people, I'm thinking of Selma, is some of you may not want to speak on here. So if I ask you questions or I want to talk about the work, you can mention before or you can put in the chat, I don't want to speak. You can speak about my work, but it's not a problem. It's nice to see the work. It's good to get you involved. It's good for you to be part of the discussion and the dialogue. And also this gets shared. We share the work as well, so it's a really good opportunity to do this, and it's nice to sort of meet up and spend a bit of time together going through the work. So and we usually have Massimo, but Massimo's got an exhibition on at the moment at Palais de Tokyo in Paris, and I know Paris is underwater at the moment, so I don't know if anyone's been seeing. There's a lot of rain happening in France, so Massimo's got an exhibition, a fashion show, so he's super busy, and usually we bring him along to share his thoughts, but for the last, I guess, 2 to 3 months, he's been super busy, and we're trying to see if we can get some other characters involved. So Selma's work, really interesting to see Selma's work, and I guess Selma's always playing between using technology, using the iPad, hand drawing, experimenting. She was using virtual reality. So it's really nice to see the work that Selma creates. And you can see that sort of influence from using sort of technology, almost this swirly experimental background. Marbling has been quite a bit of a trend on TikTok and social media. So you might have seen on Instagram, there's been a bit of a trend. There's been a long trend in marbling. So using this sort of marble effect in the background is quite an interesting, I guess, an interplay here. I love the composition of the shoe. So well done, Selma. Some really nice sort of angles and this foreshortening of the shoe. A really difficult angle that you've picked, but you've kind of twisted it and turned it quite nicely. So some really nice pieces.
Hi, Patrick. I can't see it.
Ah,
You can just see illustrating fashion, Tom Ford, and
ah.
you.
Can anyone else not see it?
Yes, I can see it. I can't see it too. In fact, I was about to ask that.
Okay. Let me reshare my screen. I'll stop sharing. Thank you for letting me know, because there's me talking away.
Yeah, no, I was getting very jealous of what you were looking at.
I'll reshare. Let's see. Can you see that now?
Yes, thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah,
Can you see
yeah,
that,
I can
Laura?
see it now.
Yes.
I can see it perfectly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Because I thought if you can't see, yes, if you can't see something, tell me, because I'm here talking away, and if you're all confused, right. So you can all see good. So as you can see on the, I'd say my left hand side with the green swirly background and the foreshortened pink sort of magenta shoe with the yellow ribbon. I was saying earlier that Selma's been using lots of virtual reality. She's been looking into the sort of dystopia of technology, and you can see how she's mixing the sort of the combination of technology. And I said also about this marbling. Marbling has become a big trend. You see lots of people making marbling for paper, and I think for Selma is yes doing this digitally, but I always would love to see how do you push this into a new space, into a new void. And also, I've been learning Blender as well. So I don't know if any of you have been using Blender, but Blender's a 3D software, and just seeing how you could bring objects and shapes into these spaces. There's a really interesting artist who's part of the White Cube, and she puts all her artwork, she collages it, and then she puts it into Blender, and then does all the cinematic lighting, and then paints what comes up in her sort of Blender space, in her 3D space. So a lot of people are thinking about how to use sort of tech, work within the technology space, then bringing it back out and then drawing from it. So referencing from it. And you can almost see that on the right hand side with that hard shadow coming in, that harsh light. That's almost got a sort of lighting that you would put in Photoshop. So I can see a little bit of interplay coming between digital, handmade, and then recreating it. So the nice thing here is you're seeing how, I guess, Selma's being informed by using tech. So rather than it's all done by tech, it's can technology inform your practice and what you're doing. So just something to think about when you're kind of doing your work and the work that you're presenting. Tamio, I don't know if Tamio's on here. Usually she sneaks in. Ah, she is Tamio. So yes, some really interesting, I guess, smoking jackets. Tom Ford really well known, I guess, for this space. And I love this sort of neon red against the black, and it's sort of almost it comes through cinematically, which is really nice for Tom Ford because Tom Ford obviously being interested in cinema, being interested in the moment, and I like that you've got this very sort of hard line to give a sense of space against this sort of character. And what's quite nice, what you're doing is you're really bringing down the color palette to very minimal colors of this sort of this, I guess, baby blue against this very lipstick red, and then the harsh black. And I think there's something quite nice happening here. And also we're used to working in the black space. So I think it would be interesting to see, how do you what would we do to take these forward? And as I said, you've got some really nice marks. And could you work with pastels on black paper if we're thinking more texturally? How do you take these further that they become more art based? And you're going to see we're coming up with some new ideas for projects, people that we're working with that really could give you some ideas over summer, some ideas. We're constantly trying to come up with little ideas. So looking at what you're doing regarding VIPs, luxury events, people going to events, is very Tom Ford like. And illustrating that in a certain way is really nice. And also, Tamio, and I know you mentioned not about live events, is really thinking about how these work. And you could think about drawing onto card or doing monoprints because of that black with that harsh red. How could you work it? And they've got a sort of a tactility of screen printing. So I think these would be really nice. I'm constantly always thinking about how you could go further with these. Could they be made onto light boxes? Yeah, because of that really bright red. So if I went to a really cool nightclub, could your work be on black white light boxes with this red coming through? So I don't know, Tamio, if you go out clubbing much or you go to any bars for martinis.
Not
What's your
really.
evenings like,
No,
Tamio?
no, really.
Not really, not really. But is there it because when I many years ago I did lots of drawings that went onto light boxes and they're quite it's quite a nice outcome. So you see where we go to exhibitions now we see lots of digital animation on screens. These could even work on a screen. So even if you knew someone who had digital screens at a bar or somewhere, you could kind of think about footfall places where to showcase these works, and I think there's something quite mysterious about them. And these like red jackets are really, if we think of Schindler's List, the girl with the little red jacket, You know, it was so poignant in the film. And I think you picking on this black space with this red jacket, I think would be really nice. But always thinking about how do you take these further? You know, every time I look at your work, because you've done animations, you've done so many things, is where would I want to see these more? And I think, have you ever, because you can print onto acetate and then you put it on a light box. Have you ever tried that?
No, no, not really.
Well, it's not expensive to print directly onto really nice film, colored film. It might cost you about £40, and you could make a light box, and that's where you could think about your work. Like, where would a really nice bar, a jazz bar or somewhere like that? It'd be great to see these, even if they become jazz characters, and you just drew the instrument and the jackets. That would be quite cool. So, like, we have Ronnie Scott's in London, and it would be, something like this would be really cool in the space. And almost, if you go to when I worked at Glastonbury, I designed a tent at Glastonbury, and I did UV lighting that went on my drawings. So when the light, obviously, when it became nighttime, the colors zinged out. They all zinged up. The colors really came forward. And I think you could maybe think about this idea of UV inks, things that could be lit up, because you can get UV inks that work at night, for bars and clubs. So, and they're places where work really gets seen a lot. Yeah, when I used to do lots of bars and clubs and places like that, because that's the place where there's a big footfall. So have a think about it, Tammy. I think, we're always trying to think of new ideas for you. And I think that maybe that's another move for you. Test a little light box. You could do it A4, maybe, and find out. You can buy cheap light boxes on eBay, or you could probably buy them on Shein or wherever. God knows where you're going to buy light boxes, but there's lots of places online where you could buy a light box and do a test, and you'll be shocked.
I'll have a look.
Have a look, do a test, and it could be something, I think something more. Just like you've done, the black with that little injection of color is just enough. Yeah?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll give it a go. Yeah. Thank you.
Good, good. And thank you for staying up late. Well done again, as always. Uh, Polka. I don't know if Polka's here, but I'll look through my list. No. So Polka's not here. So I did a little bit of research on some of the characters that have attended today, and I didn't know. I don't know if I'm saying them Polka or Polka. I guess I'll be corrected one day. Um, is a print designer, and I saw doing lots of prints, lots of designs, large prints, prints for garments, so we can see a good understanding of prints. And I saw a whole realm of prints going out on fashion design pieces. So it's interesting to see a bit of background behind this person, because this is the second time they've done it. It's good for me to do a little bit of homework. Um, my only thoughts is, we have Illustrator. If you're using very blocky shapes, you've got to think about what can technology do now. And if any of you are testing AI, I'm constantly testing on AI to see how good or bad, or how competitive it is. Vector illustration is really going to be hit hard by AI. So just be aware that AI is really going to come for vector illustration work. So that would be my feedback, is we're going to have to really think about how do we change our style and technique, that it doesn't get absorbed by AI artists and creatives. So just be aware, everybody. We've seen, like, I heard the Association of Illustration. I've heard many of the illustration collectives, even my agent. They were saying, I think it's about 35% of work is now going to AI. That's quite a lot within a short time frame. So if you think about illustration, digital illustration, artworking, is that big amount of work, 35% is now shifted over. So how do we differentiate ourselves from that market? I guess the nice thing is, the fashion illustration world has become really relevant through live events, and also just as a practice, and they like to work with the human. So there's a real nice experience that's happening. So just be aware it's coming, but I think they really love the interaction between the illustrator and the space. So AI, I don't think is going to take us too quickly, but it's taking over lots of other spaces. So I don't know if Kelly's here. Um, yeah, so Kelly, well, this is the first time Kelly's done this, and Kelly has been quite an interesting character for Fida. She won one of our projects that we did with Ungaro, and I don't know if you've been following anyone follows Kelly. Kelly got, I guess, a really good contract with Ungaro from when we did our project, and I think she's designing her second print collection for Ungaro in Paris. So it's really nice to see, projects that we're doing are starting leading on to new opportunities. So Kelly's now doing the next menswear. It was featured in Women's Wear Daily. She got some great feedback. So it's really nice to see Kelly getting opportunities from things that we do and people seeing her work. And also we had another project which was with Bal Harbour, and Kelly, they saw Kelly's work, and it was interesting to see that they commissioned her to do a series for their magazine. So it's good to have Kelly showing her work on here. Kelly many years ago did a project with me with Tom Ford. We were trying to early bird show her work, and Kelly's gone on to do many jobs for the Financial Times. So she's been a bit of a rising star working with Show Studio as well. So it's nice to see Kelly's work, and also just to see, she's got an amazing approach to drawing, very experimental, mixed with fine detailing. She's an amazing illustrator for drawing shiny things. So if you look at her portfolio, for drawing patents and shiny levers and metals, she's got a real skill for drawing metals, which I think is a challenge in itself to take on a metal. But maybe she loves drawing all the shiny elements to it, and maybe at school she loved drawing, I guess, glass with lots of reflections and things like that. So Kelly's got a wonderful approach to drawing, and her background is in textiles. So Kelly, well done. It's great to see you back and showing some amazing work. So thanks for showing. Um, Maya, I think Maya might be on here. Hello, Maya.
Hi, it's
Oh,
Maya.
Maya, sorry, Maya.
It's okay.
Yeah, so I guess this is your sort of first time here. So it's
Yes.
nice to see your work. And I'm trying to work out if your background is a fashion designer.
No, I'm a graphic designer and I have a background in drawing and illustration,
Ah,
particularly character illustration.
right. Okay. So that's the sort of connection to it, because I was trying to work out um, what your background was just from looking at the work. And I think what's quite interesting is this real sense of drawing. And usually, we try in the talks that we do is, where would someone like you go, and where would you pick up work, and which markets would pick you up? So I had two thoughts. One, obviously, fashion designers of luxury brands always use illustrators, and especially graphic illustrators. So any designers that within the local, I guess local, or you could go online and kind of look or start promoting what you're doing, is they tend to work with people that do graphic novels or graphic illustration, that tend to work for fashion designers, because they really understand the figure and the anatomy. So I can see, that beautiful back image that you've done here. It's beautiful, and the hair's beautiful. They would want to see color in. There's two bits of feedback that I'd probably give you is, watch out. I can tell you do caricature a little bit. You've got to think about the face. They think of beautifying it a little bit. So where you've widened her nose a little bit, think of Italians. They want everything small, thin, reduced. So they don't want any sort of character molding in there. There was another illustrator we used to have who used to widen things. And when I first started, I used to have eyes a bit wider, so they were a bit more alien-like. And then slowly but surely, they kicked it all out of me. Um, The only other thing is she would probably need to be a bit taller. You could do that in Photoshop. So if you draw like this, you just give it a bit of perspective, and then that will make the figure a little bit taller without you redoing the artworks, because you've sort of drawn her, I would say, 8.5 heads or 8.25, where usually a fashion design figure's 9 heads. So you could fit 9 heads in your body. So you're about 8.5 or something like that. So you'd just be a fraction taller. She's just in the moment of being more normal, where more Italian couture is that little bit taller. So they go for taller. And the rendering, I guess the nice part, and Tom Ford and brands like Loewe and Dior, they love to see hand drawn. These what I'd call technicals. And what I would try and do is almost draw as if you're animating. So draw the bag from face on, draw it from the side, and draw it where it has a 3/4 with a bit of perspective. And then they would commission you as someone who would potentially draw products, accessories, because there's two ends. One is the hand-drawn illustrator, and then the other end is the 3D clothes 3D designer. And they're kind of mixing between the two spaces. But usually the clothes designers are Mulberry, Hugo Boss, Zegna, Max Mara, Zara. They're more in the middle ground, where the luxury end are really still pushing back, having a very hand illustrated effect. So that's why I was saying with the hand drawing style, you're heading towards the Tom Fords, the Dior's, the Prada. They really embrace the hand illustration. If you see any of their work ever featured, Gucci, all of them work with illustrators. We've had many people on here speaking who've now gone on to work for Gucci, who actually work at Gucci, like Peter Turner, who was in our first book. He also worked with me at Tom Ford. He was an illustrator. He now works as head of VIP, as a designer and an illustrator. Julia Bodoni, who was a lecturer at Marangoni, she now is at Gucci, an amazing illustrator. So if you look through our interviews and talks, you'll see a lot of these people that I'm talking about being featured. And I can repost them online, or you can ask me on Instagram or something like that, and I can reshare them. But technique wise, lovely.
Thank you.
My only thing was that little bit of the nose on the face. Was that something that they'll say is too caricature like? And with luxury brands, they're no mercy. If there's an error or something that they pick up, they won't speak to you. So it's not like you send an email, they like your work, and then if they find a fault, they do not return a response. They just don't get back to you.
Okay.
And they don't, there's no like sorry or dialogue. It's just end of conversation. Yeah. So, and you're kind of lost. I've been in them sort of situations, and then I even knew the people, and they would say, no, it was too hard for us this time. It's not working. And I was lucky to get any feedback, because I was like, what the hell? And I love the way you've put this sort of illustrated book in there as well. That's like a sketchbook effect is really nice. And it'd be, it's a really great way to display. I'd love to see color in there,
Okay.
which is great. It's good to see, and you can bring them for meetings as well. So it's great to have a sketchbook for meetings to show them the real drawings, because they want to see people that can really draw and really understand drawing. So I'd make that little amendment around the face, but the back image is beautiful, and the shape and the shoulders, and when they talk to you, they will really talk about them details. The shoulder, the way that shoulder is, they care about all them details. So all of them elements they love, and the shoe and the bag are perfect. They're lovely. It's just I would add some color, even if you added really light washes to it. You may not need to do it to your drawing. Photocopy it and work directly on a photocopy, because if you're working at a fashion house, they would just draw straight onto this and destroy it. So photocopy everything, work on the photocopy, and then you won't be upset when they draw on top. Yeah, but excellent, Matt. Really nice work. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Jana, I don't know if Jana's here. Jana's not here. Okay, some quick sketches, quite playful. And I think Jana had sort of an interesting, I guess, collection. They're quite quick, naive, fast drawings. I don't know if you need all of these squares in the background. I think this more wispy, fast line is getting quite interesting. And as I said earlier, this really nice dynamic figure they really like. And I remember when we worked with Peter Dundas, he really loved these like long figures. And where some people don't like these little sparkly light areas, some people do. Roberto Cavalli, brands like that, they love sparkly stuff. So some brands won't like it because they're more like Celine, Chanel, they wouldn't like it. But if these more, I guess, more glamorous, Valentinos, where they have sparkly things, Paco Rabanne, they like these sort of trinket things. So drawing lines really nice. Again, it's nice that you've gone a bit lighter on the leg further away, and you've got this shadow. And I think I would like to see the detail on the head. The way you're drawing is quite similar. So I'd love to see less constant lines like an artist. Be more, if you're as a fashion designer, creative, you'd be more refined with your line. Yeah, so make a decision and draw the line rather than there's lots of scribbly, scratchy lines. It gets too heavy around the arms and it starts to disjoint. So I think round the leg where you've kind of made a decision on the line, that's better. It's kind of more where here you're really getting heavy and it's getting really too strong with, the way you've treated the body to the way you've treated the dress is very similar, but they're two different objects. One is light and wavy, and the other one is more soft. So you have to kind of give a distinction between the two different materials, and they're the sort of things that people pick up on when you're sewing designs. Dalma, is Dalma here? Yes, I can see you, Dalma. I'm not too sure if it's. I think it's Dalma. So Dalma, I cropped it for you, and I don't. You can turn your microphone off if you want to speak. Yeah, I zoomed in a bit. You had it photographed on grass. I'm not too sure if you wanted the grass, but I liked the composition. I thought there was some interesting, and I'm guessing it's coloring pencil mixed with acrylics. Uh, Really nice. The composition's really interesting. I think there's some nice, interesting outcomes here. When you're photographing your work, if you were sending it into a client, just think you can crop it, you can actually send it. So they're just focusing on that rather than looking at the grass. I like this little highlight left on the plinth underneath as well. But the composition's really interesting. I think there's some really nice things. I'm trying to work out the bottle. It feels quite small. But there's some really nice shapes here. Just think about how this part of the bottle comes forward because this area is very dark and this area is light. And I know there's a highlight here, but this part of the bottle's gone backwards. It needs to come forward. So you need a highlight on this part of the bottle to give it depth. So when you're thinking about, like here, you've got a light, you need to put one there anyway, even if you can't see it, to give the shape 3D-ness. It needs to be 3D. So we need that 3D shape. So thank you, Dalma. I can see you, but if you want to speak, maybe put something in the chat. Liliana. Let me see if Liliana's on here. Liliana's not here. Yeah, a good, I guess, quite sketchy. You've added in this sort of impasto around the back. I'm trying to think of like sort of this dark impasto, thick lines. Maybe, because what's happening is my eye is zooming into the impasto, and I think maybe could we think about the jacket having impasto? What what what's more important, the jacket or the impasto in the background? Even though you've blobbed it in, it's become more important than the coat. So I'm kind of like fighting when I look at this image between impasto and jacket, where the background should be really nice and simple. Just fill it in with a block color. And I think, you've kind of filled it in, but maybe didn't consider it. And the way you've drawn this, understanding the jacket and understanding the form is change the way that you draw some of these lines. Yeah, I want to see the lapel of the jacket. It comes forward, so maybe a certain line, and then a different line on the arms, to give it some sort of sense of form. I can see you've got a bit darker here, but you can push the pencil harder. You don't need to draw more lines. So just be aware of the lines. And the face is quite a nice form, and the form it feels quite long, which is quite good. So well done, Lillian. Iona. Yep, you're here. I picked these two, Iona. You can tell me if I'm saying it correctly.
Hi,
I know her or I know.
I know, I know.
I know her. Okay. I know her. So I'm guessing you've mixed watercolor pencil and maybe a bit of coloring pencil. Is that correct?
It's all with watercolor, only normal watercolor. So I did what you told me last time, try to make a quick sketches for live events. And yeah.
Nice. And I like that you've brought in the different fruits, which is very Tom Ford-esque. And you've got this sort of very subdued way of drawing a product, which usually is a hero. So just be aware that I'm not too sure if the lemon or this orange is more important than the Tom Ford bottle. So where you've drawn this bottle really subtle, I love the way that you've drawn it really subtle, but you have to be aware of the objects around it have become more prominent and more powerful than the hero. And I think you could have just drawn the bottle and maybe these could be, without giving them too much focus, you could have drawn them as like little washes of lines. So they don't have an outline. So I would have left the Tom Ford bottle as it is because it's really nice and subtle. And then the lemon or the orange or whatever it is, I would have just filled it in and not added too much detail. I just
Okay.
added the shape and the form, but just really subtle as a simple wash. And I think that would have been enough. And then you've kind of got this really cherry red one. I think with the cherry red one, it's subtle, but I think here you could have brought highlights into it. It's very flat at the moment. Bring some highlights into the bottle to make it jump forward. And I feel that the way you've written the typography and the graphics on this bottle is a lot more. You need to make me feel that you love my product, where here I don't feel you love my product as much, where here you did. Yeah, so when you're working for a luxury fashion house, they want to see that you love the brand, you love the product, you care about it. So you have to put in that time and energy just to get that typography as good as possible. So here it looks a bit just too done, where here you spent a bit of time going around it, you filled in the colors around. So it's just a bit of showing love. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
good. Thank you. Uh, Delita, I think she might be here.
Yeah, here.
Hello, Delita. These were the two that jumped out, and I really I think I gravitate. This one, I'm sort of confused about. One second. So you've got this sort of fruit, and then the Tom Ford bottle.
Yeah, like I wanted to change it a little bit, but like I had some problems, so I wanted to like highlight more the bottle, like maybe do a stronger outline, but yeah, I was afraid to ruin everything, so like I was scared to outline too much, so I sent like this. I send it also to have a little bit of exactly a feedback because I wasn't really sure about the composition actually.
Yeah. So for me, uh, I'm not too sure what the is it a fruit? What is
Uh,
it?
yeah, a cherry. And unfortunately, I couldn't scan it or photograph it really well because my my camera, my phone camera is broken. Is not doing really well. I
Okay.
need to change my phone actually, and also my scanner is broken. So I had to like I think I can find the English term like I had to try to send it in how I could.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. What I really love is this attention to detail of this cherry that you've
Mhm.
done,
Mhm.
and it would be fascinating because that's sort of like using hyperrealism. And what would be really nice to see, I'd like to see you as a test for yourself, is maybe look at some of the Tom Ford ads. And, if we think about, there's lots of artists who reference and do these hyperrealism drawings. There's many on Instagram. I'd like to see you maybe do this hyperreal drawing of a Tom Ford ad and just
Okay.
test yourself, because you probably were starting it, but the issue is you've done this cherry, which is amazing, and then you've kind of lost energy drawing the bottle. And I
Yeah.
think the bottle is what's meant to be more important than cherry, or you need to make an ad about the cherry and then think about just the typography, like think about something different because you've drawn this cherry amazing. I would love to see how would you draw a bottle of Tom Ford to that level of detail because there's lots of ads with the Tom Ford bottle with splashes and reflections and light. There's loads of them. So it'd be great to see you looking at a pair of shades and drawing all the details. And then, look at all the accessories they have. So just think about objects, accessories, go to their website and just get screenshots of their objects with good lighting and then redraw them. And if you can draw this sort of hyper real cherry, it would be fascinating to see you draw some of the objects because that cherry must have taken you a very long time.
I think like 2 hours. Yeah, I think.
Okay, so not too bad. So then maybe it'd be nice to see you. Let me see you do a bottle of that standard in 2 hours or longer. Let's see. But that tonality in there is amazing and the detail. So it'd be really cool to see you do that because the way you've treated the typography on Electric Cherry doesn't make me feel that you love the bottle as much as the cherry.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's
I
all about you showing your appreciation for the product. Yeah.
Okay.
So just be aware. And the other one, which I kind of focused on, was this famous sort of cinematic, what Tom Ford sort of represents today as a brand is, the cinema. He always loved Helmut Newton, Yves Saint Laurent. He always loved them sort of images. So just thinking about this character smoking a cigarette is very sort of film noir, cinema. Yeah, so all it taps into that world of Tom Ford, YSL, all them sorts of brands that Tom Ford loved, and I was really sort of captured to this. And how was this done? Just drawn on black card with white pencil, and
Yeah, it's white pencil on black paper, and the brighter highlights were made with acrylic marker.
yeah, okay, like a Tipex pen. Nice, good. I really like this one. I think with regards to this one, more of this sort of black and white cinematic images. I think they're quite seductive. Um, I don't know if you know of the artist Robert Longo. Have you heard of Robert Longo?
Like the name is not real, is not
So
new to me.
in the film American Psycho,
Mhm.
there's two drawings in the background of figures standing, and there's a female artist called Cindy Sherman, and Cindy Sherman, she makes collages. She's one of them characters. And Robert Longo went to university with Cindy Sherman and he made these amazing drawings. He does hyper realistic black and white drawings of like the American flag. So look up Robert Longo, Longo, Robert Longo.
Yeah, I'm looking about it. I saw some of his art. Yeah, I know him. Yeah, now that I'm seeing it.
Very,
Yeah,
very, very famous and
yeah.
really well known for these sort of black and white, super hyper realistic drawings, and they're huge. And even looking at people that work with these black, he works sort of like with dark backgrounds with the highlights. So, and people have done it with pastels, and people are doing it with chalk. So drawing with chalk as well. Yeah, I think there's a really nice space you're playing into here, and I feel that just have your references to know your artist as well, just to give you some sort of feedback. system of who's my competitor or who's my market. So Robert Longo. So Delita, well done. Really nice.
Thank you very much.
Well done. Kaz, I think Kaz is on here. I think this was the only piece that you gave in and you tested yourself with a bit of animation. Am I right? This was the only one you sent in, Kaz? I think you said yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's cut out. So I'll just play the little animation. So, and I'm trying to work out, these are like little collages. Is that correct?
Yes. So the second one is the cutout.
Yeah, I'll play it again. You're cutting out, so I can just about hear you. But really, yeah, because so this sort of playfulness, it's almost kind of like quite childlike of like when you have these books where you pull them and you can pull the objects like the bag moves or the glasses move up and down. That could be quite a nice little look at children's books and maybe look at designers who would use something like a children's book. So someone like Kenzo. I think Kenzo is a really playful brand. I think Tom Ford, like we're seeing Hermes using lots of animation, Loewe they're using animation because they're much more illustrative from that point of view. So I think using that sort of playful animation, I think it's a good starting point. But I think for being on brand, I think I would be targeting probably Loewe, Hermes, and I would probably do Kenzo. So if you're thinking of doing more animation for your own practice, they're the ones that I would tap into. Okay, Kaz? Good. We can just about hear you. I don't know. It sounds like you're up a mountain. Okay. So next was Martha. I think I've just had a thought. I've just seen Nina on here and I'm not too sure if she's in here. But we'll have a look, Nina. Martha, interesting. I was looking at this image and I was trying to think of like Driver the film. It has that sort of film-like Miami Vice space. So and Martha is almost playing between a person who's doing woodcuts because and I think there's an interesting area here of this sort of overlaid mark like pencil woodcut look, and I think her graphic colors really set up for a person who feels like woodcut and then these white lines over the top. So I really loved it. I sort of mentioned it and it has this sort of sun-kissed feel about it, very summery. But again, this would be, now I'm thinking about it, be a great cover for Grand Theft Auto, even a game. So I think there's a sort of place for you, Marta, is in maybe doing some thinking about fashion games. I don't know if there is a fashion game, but think of this Grand Theft Auto meets Tom Ford. Could be a nice idea. And the way that you've done the typography at the top as well really has that sort of gamification of image making. Yeah, so when the way you've done your text, I could imagine buying this sort of video album CD or something. So it could be a music release or something like that. So I think there's a really good place there. So well done, Martha. And I see Nina, you're on here. So let me just try and see if I can find. I don't know why. Let me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was late.
You were late, but yeah, I can see you on here. Let me just bring up your image. I don't know why you disappeared off the file. I'm just going to unshare because stop sharing, and I'm going to reshare so people can see what you did. So hopefully you can all see this. Yeah. So Nina, the good thing I'd like to point out, Nina, is, and I don't know. Let's see. Dal, I can't see because I'm at home. Okay, that was someone else speaking. But Nina, well done for doing the shoe drawings. I was looking at your Instagram,
Yeah, I did.
and you've kept going at them.
Yeah, I keep going.
Keep
I just-
going, I'm secretly watching you from afar,
Okay.
and it's nice to see, every so often a new shoe comes up, and it's really good. So like I've had commissions where I did some work for another magazine, where I had to, I think I might have mentioned it before, where I had to draw people's shoes in fashion, who went to Frieze art fair. So doing little things like that where you keep repeating yourself, people will pick you up and go, oh, there's the person who does all them shoes. And we also had another artist who we did something with shoes, and she's got some work for doing some editorial work about shoes. So keep going on the shoe
Okay.
front. Yeah, so well done. And here you're kind of getting a nice sort of a mix now, sort of painterly. It almost looks like a brushed velvet look. So you're getting a sort of, which is very Tom Ford as well. He uses lots of velvets in his materials. So it's nice to see you keep pushing. You've got this very painterly. It feels, if we look at your work going from super hyper, uh, vivid, abstract, graphic, uh, like almost vectorized, to now this more painterly. It almost looks photographic. There's something quite photographic, almost in focus, out of focus. So there's something quite cool about it. Almost, there's a really nice magazine called Self Service Magazine. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Right. So it's always good to find magazines that are quite interesting. There was one called Intersection, which was all about cars and fashion, and then another one called Self Service. And Self Service is a really interesting magazine for celebrities, fashion designers, creatives, and they have really nice Polaroids and pictures in there for inspiration. So go online and have a look at Self Service. It could give you some good inspiration for images to inspire you. And I think, finding your imagery is quite important. So overall, I think, well done, Nina.
Okay.
And I don't know how we got you off the file, but we double checked and somehow we've missed you. But we found you. So anyway, good. I'm not too sure if I missed anyone else, but Nina, keep the shoes up, which is good. And good to see the painterly effect coming through in your work. And getting the reference and getting the right magazines to reference from is where it's cool. And as I keep saying to you all the time, and I know you're putting a lot of energy and time in, is the series. And then you when we look at your website or your Instagram, is the consistency of that look and feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good, good. Okay. So I don't know if I've missed anyone. I've done Deleta, I've done Kaz, Iona, Kelly. Lisa. Lisa, I
Me.
don't know. Someone's
I'm
missed.
here.
Let me just check if I've missed your files. Oh, that's weird. Okay, I'm going to bring yours up, Lisa, anyway, because I checked it earlier and we double checked. So I don't know what's happened. I'm just going to unshare. Just going to reshare yours.
I was close to deadlines, maybe that one.
No, 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 because I definitely put it in my document because I was looking at it today. Okay, so can you see it, Lisa?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. This was, well, I'll be honest, I always get one question. Did this person create this in AI? That's the first question I get asked.
No.
No.
No, that's how that was I was talking with you the previous review. So I was studying like a creator in a creative communication agency. So that was my first job, and they taught me like Brazil school to think differently. So I'm thinking another. So I was working close to the designers and with the creative people, like maybe for 5 years. It was my first job. It was amazing. So they taught me to think differently. From I just can't do the sketch from the commercial. I just can't afford it myself. I don't know. It's like my stuff. But I was struggling for a month with inspiration. I have a tough times for artists. So I was experimenting, and that was like several of them. And I was experimenting with the mood and how can be it be sensual, because Tom Ford, he's like playing with the sex themes, and I wanted to show his identity and how it transforms. Also, it's like influence with the film Substance, or how it is with the Demi Moore. I
Yeah.
just saw that. So it was kind of feeling that I was trying to bring the vision and identity of the Tom Ford, how the girl can change wearing the glasses and be another for herself, the feelings and like sensual stuff, like a trigger, the glasses.
Yeah. So I get, well, I knew the answer was it wasn't AI anyway, because I watched the video of it being made.
Yeah, I put
So
for sure, I put the video.
yes,
Yes.
which is a good thing, uh because the image is quite surreal. People are now
Yeah, that's my
linking.
favorite. That's my favorite. I like to work with a serial. I'm very bad with the live events because I'm like that kind of creative that is very active at nighttime. I don't like people around. I'm like a bit close with that. And I'm very creative at night. I'm like, Salvador Dali when he was putting the water while he trying to sleep, and then he finds out while he's dreaming the idea the water was falling, and he was awaking and start to draw. So I think it's like something with the Salvador Dali I have the common with inspiration. I usually can do it all the day, think about that, but while I'm going to sleep, suddenly I see all the pictures and I'm putting myself back and trying to show it.
Good.
That was the last time. I'm sorry for it's always like that. I'm always close to deadlines and I'm trying to
No,
to
no, no,
reach
no,
you.
no. It's fine. But I'm testing stuff in AI to get me to understand what's possible, what's not possible, and it struggles with blurring and things like that. So I know, because many questions get asked to me about lots of people's work, but I knew. So you don't need to tell me, or you don't need to justify
No, I mean,
yourself.
I'm a big fan of AI. It's really amazing thing. I'm the kind of artist that try to get the inspiration from it. Especially now I learned the video stuff. I found out the great border between illustrations and doing the video for that, like production.
Yeah,
So it like inspires me every time. If I feel sad, the AI for me is a beautiful thing. But I know that brands do not like to work. They usually prefer the hand drawn, and they are struggling with the digital. And I'm on this way, and I don't want to put AI on this spot because I wanted to be like truly with you how I'm inspired and what I'm doing.
yeah.
Yes, of course I can use AI, but this is not
But
the
what
way.
what what might be nice, because I want people to experiment with technology, and I know I get a lot of feedback about AI, and I think Marta had did some really interesting animations using AI, and I think what would be really nice to see is imagine this as a little short video, and the lips move, and you animate it, and it blurs, and it sort
Yeah,
of
I'm on the way on to that
that's
to do
that's
that.
that's where I want to see, because I don't want you to worry about, because the reason I mentioned this, and it's kind of a good ending for today, is that people talk about AI as if it's some sort of anti-hero. But I think for someone like you who really is playful, plays with AI, experiments, is if you get an outcome like this that is really surreal and really strange and almost orgasmic, and I'm like, when I look at it, I'm like, wow, it's really interesting. And I look at the mouths, and Francis Bacon always spoke about the mouth, and also so did Warhol when he did Marilyn Monroe. Speaking about the lips, you've really captured them lips, and they're really seductive. And I think I'd love to see this like blur and animate as if it's going mental, like crazy, as if there's some
Mhm.
sort, as if she's having an orgasm and she's going
Can we
sexually
show
mad.
that? We can show that. I was not sure about that. I was trying to not to cross this border with essential stuff. I
No,
know that
I
you're some of them you're printing, so I don't know if we can afford this. So
Lisa,
I was
don't hold
like,
back. Don't be
okay,
scared. There are
okay.
no rules, and I think I'd love to see this really being pushed and the angles of the glasses move. I'd love to see you really push it into an animation where it's almost quite weird that it becomes mad.
Have
And
you, I have a question, Patrick, for you
yes,
especially. I was hoping that you see, have you seen the Tom, the name of the Tom in the glasses? Because I was hoping that you're gonna see, but no, I guess.
no.
So I was showing you the glasses. So the first one is Tom, and then the lashes is Ford.
Oh yes,
That
yes,
was,
yes, yes,
yes, I'm
yes.
sorry. I was
I
trying
can
to do that.
see, I can see that. No, I wasn't too sure if you said have I seen the ad. No, but I can see the Tom in the glasses, and I can
Okay,
see the
okay.
Ford.
I
Yes.
was trying to put it
No, I
like,
love it. I love the concept, and it would really inspire someone like Tom Ford that you have this sort of TOM. I can imagine a fashion show. You know, this is where illustrators are really good because someone like you who's done something like this, and I love that sort of kitten glass coming edge. It's really nice, and you know, he loved Yves Saint Laurent. So using that shape and that form, these are so nice. And imagine if they were made. Like I would think to push it a bit harder, you know, even if you because I know Selma's using 3D, is could you make these glasses into 3D and actually print them and experiment? Because they're amazing and I love them and I think they would be great. But the
what if,
Ford, print the Ford on the glass, the word Ford. So instead of being on the eyelash, that sort of pixelated Ford bit could be
oh,
like
you mean
Ray-Ban.
like in a corner?
Yes, like
Yeah, I did
Ray-Bans.
those. I did those before, but actually I didn't like it. I make it clear, beautiful, but it was not like that because of this
Shape.
movement. And those fort with the lashes, I thought it's gonna be more like cute because you see those fort, but those on the glasses, it was like pretty boring for me, or maybe I'm too creative.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
But there's
I was trying.
also like
That was my first idea.
as a makeup artist or a stylist, is there's these machines where you just swipe them and they print stuff. Have you seen them? They use them for
Yeah.
doing boxes. They use them
Hmm.
on boxes. They're like a machine, like a gun, and you put an image in and you swipe them across the box, and they print the logos on the boxes. Imagine if you could do a print of the Tom Ford across the eye, the way you've done it, so it looks like a print. Be great for a fashion show. But these are all ideas that illustrators, art directors, creatives need to think about. So maybe look at it's called packaging printing, and it's like a gun and you like swipe it across the box and it prints. And I've seen lots of like graphic designers, graffiti artists um, drawing with the gun to make marks. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll see if I can show you a video. I'll send you a video link so
Thank you.
you
Thank
can
you.
have a look. But I loved it, and I think I would, you know, it could be the orgasm piece, and she should be going crazy, her mouth and her eyes, and there's a famous Warhol video of a man getting a blowjob, and he just videos the head and that's don't be scared to be creative and pushing on the edge. So don't be fearful. We want to do work that's really cutting edge, exciting, and a bit dangerous. Never be safe. I never want to see safe stuff. And when you say things like, oh, well, I think it's going into print, I don't want it to be bad, then that's terrible. That means I'm conservative and boring. So we want to be edgy, bad behaved, creative, experimental, pushing the boundaries. So never ever do I want to hear from you say, oh, well, it's going in print, it needs to be safe. Never. You got it from me now. as bad as possible, as creative as you can be, push the boundaries, and be as experimental as you can. So there's no rules. I don't want to hear about you're worried or anything like that. So you've got a sign off now, Lisa, to go even crazier.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate. I really changed my style, and I'm working with you maybe 2 years, and I really appreciate for every review and pushing me because you're the first curator that makes me feel free. Of course, I was like thinking about my work, this work, like very, very strange for you, and I was worried about that because my curators, maybe it's cultural, we're like mostly academic stuff. We're not allowed to do like the feelings. It's a bit different. So we're supposed to do the good colors, the good body shapes. It's supposed to be right, if we
Yeah,
can
but
describe it like that. It's
in
supposed to be right.
in the UK, we're much more punk, so we do things
I
a bit more
love it.
dangerous. Yeah, so
I
we're
love it.
a
Thank you
bit
so
more
much.
edgy and experimental. So well done and thank you. And
Thank you.
I'll post some notes up and I'll put some stuff up online. But well done, everybody. And we're going to have a few other little things to do over summer because I know we didn't have. We might have another illustrating series, but we wanted to give everyone a little bit of a break. But we're gonna have other things to do because I'm speaking to a food company. She makes all the food for Dior, Mont Blanc, Hermes, and we're trying to think about how we can collaborate more with people that make fashion and food. So we're going to have some interesting things to do over the next few weeks and through summer. And we've also got the Ioku project. I don't know if anyone saw the brief, but we've got, I think tomorrow or the next day, I think it's tomorrow. So if you haven't seen the brief, go online. Ioku, she's a Swedish jewelry designer. And I think, Lisa, yourself, everybody, try and go on there, have a go. She was an ex-student of mine many years ago. Her brand's doing really well in Sweden. And I reached out to her, and I think it's someone we're going to collaborate with now over the next year. So she's sponsoring the awards. She's someone who potentially I think is going to be. She's open to being really experimental. So there's good potential there for new work. So we've received a few pieces, but I'd like if anyone's not done it, you could spend today or the next day or so doing it. And let's have a go at it because she is really looking for creative work and commissioning work as well. So that's why I've been trying to get her for the last year, but she's been growing her brand really fast. So thank you, everybody. Well done. I don't think I missed anyone. And luckily, Nina and Lisa, you turned up because you were in the presentation, but for some reason you disappeared. I don't know what happened, but at least you're here. And that's the beauty of coming. So it reminds me in case something goes wrong and we make a mistake. But thank you and have a good night. And I'll speak to you soon. And we'll discuss more on Slack and go from here. But thank you very much and have a good evening. All right. Good night.
Thank you, Patrick.
You,
Bye
bye.
bye. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye.